Good afternoon, everybody. This is Chrisi from Solstice ATR. I hope you are enjoying your long weekend and Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. Today, what I'd like to do is call this Is this a house of cards that are getting too extended, or we're going to come back? Earnings season will start. Tuesday is the first two companies that will report. One of them is IBM. The second one would be Netflix. Let's see what the kickoff is of those two companies after hours. So keep an eye what the technicals give us and how we can be directional on the right side of the trades. First of all, I'm looking at the combination of those instruments. If you take a look at the S&P, NASDAQ, and the Russell and Dow, we are getting further and further away on the weekly chart 2 years. This is a weekly 2-year chart. And it's showing us that we're getting away from the 18 simple moving average. Everybody uses a 20-day moving average. I have mine a little bit on a faster scale. Over the time I've tested it, and it seems to work a little bit more accurate on the first turns when trend does change. So as long as we are extended, keep an eye of this. There will be one more time change in the market. Let's take a look at the ES Fortune 500 company. I'll start with the ES first. That's the E-mini weekly. If we noticed, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 gaps, and at the same time 9 gaps almost, because I think I still have one down here which is very thin. You can see it's the little line there. And 14 virgin control points. That's where most volume happened during price action. We've been grinding higher since November of 10, 7, 10, 8, and we haven't came back down on it. So let's take a look going from the weekly. Let's take a look at it on a daily chart. This shows on the daily chart we're still in an up channel. We eventually broke the uptrend here, the first two. I got a baby blue one here and a baby blue one here. I took the overnight action off so I can show you guys the gap. I know I'm repeating myself. There's one here. There's one here. That's where we started the move back up. That's number 3. That's number 4. That's number 5. That's number 6. Number 7, there's a minor one here, and that's number 8, last one during this week. On the side action continuation higher, Friday was basically an up side action. We looked into the close a little higher and came back to close around the puck, which is around the 33.23. If there's any area that's going to be violated, keep an eye on the 20.33.16 area. If we fall through it, the backside would be around the 3200 and eventually coming back on the daily to the 3250 and backside of this channel. If we look at it on the weekly one more time just to show you what I'm looking at, if we look at the 18 simple moving average, if I say this is 3300, 3330, away from 3200, it's about 100 points. And if we go to 3220 from, or 3100, that's almost 220 points from here to here on the 18 simple moving average. What we can do, that 18 simple moving average, we can do a little marker on it and just, highlight it with a funky yellow or pinkish color. That 18, it's going to move up a little bit, but we can keep it there just to say, hey, this is the 18 simple moving average. Edit it, go edit property, and what we can do, make it highlighted into like a pinkish or orangey color or a baby blue, so that when we get coming back to that, I'm not saying that we can come back there, but keep an eye if there will be a change in the trend in the overall market. Let's go from here to the 20-day 78-minute. And what I'd like to show you is the monkey bars on it. Go to style instead of the standard, go monkey bars, and this will allow us to see where the high was in into Friday's action, which was a 33.30 quarter, and the low in the morning action where we came back to retest was 33.19. And now overall, where did we close at 30? Here it shows, 33, 23.75. This happened, at the close, but the 415 close was 33.24 quarters. Remember, we traded a little bit after that 15-minute. Most value area high is that area here at the 26.50, and the value area low is the 21.75, 22 area, and the POC is right at 23.50, 23 quarter. So that's where the most sentiment is. And if you look at the high of this candle here, that's 33.18 and that's 19. There's a small gap between this one and this one. Here, when we looked higher, we had basically have another gap here. The low of it was 33.0275, and this one was the high 32.99. So you have another gap in here as well, and this is a virgin control point, which is a POC, which has never been retested, and another one here which has not been retested. So remember, on the way down we do have a lot of virgin control points which we have never retested. At the 30-minute, if I go a little bit longer, let's say on that time frame, instead of 3 days, and I just make it up to 20-day more, and you can see the difference on the way coming back down every time we grind it higher. Let's just start, working for our way from here to this area here where I showed you those two gaps. You can see where we're consolidating here, grinding a little higher inside, and eventually we broke up. We have not tested this virgin control point or this virgin control point, and the second one would be here. 1, 2, 3. And if we're going to come back, then we'll be further on the way back, coming back down, which would be this area here, which has never been retested. So I'm basically kind of giving you an idea how virgin control points on the way up and down, we're supposed to reset. We have 14 of them. We have never been retested. I mean, I haven't seen it in my career, those areas being tested before. So let's go to the NASDAQ/NQ, and we'll look at the charts. We'll take the monkey bars off. Similar situation. Go to standard. And if you noticed on the daily charts or the weekly, we'll go just to the weekly to show you how far we are extended from the 18 simple moving average. And we broke above that channel. From this channel here, if you connect those dots here, we are very far away from that steep channel here, and I have a yellow one here. Either one of those two, that purple one is the first one, and the second one is the breakout of that minor channel here, which will be the retest of this area if we're going to come back. Remember, we have to look at the earnings and what's going on in the overall market. Let's take a look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average. The Dow Jones Industrial Average still in that up channel. Keep an eye on that 18 and free fall. But remember, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which is the YM, the mini is 29,336. If you look at the DJT, dollar sign DJI, I'm sorry, the dollar sign DJI, oops, dollar sign DJI. If we look at it, we're at 23,400 almost. Do we have another 500 points to go? Maybe it is possible, but if they don't get above the 29.5 or the 30,000 mental game, it may reset. Keep an eye on the earnings once again. Let's take a look at the RTY/RTY. This is the small cap. RTY still, trying to catch up. Remember, we fell down from here and we went back up, and eventually we cleared that 1700. We tested it. Is this going to continue to finish the move to this upside? Because remember, we have this major channel, or if you draw this one here, we already retested it and broke out of that channel. So keep an eye if it doesn't fall below the 1685 to come back to this channel, and the 18 SMA and the 50. If it continues, we'll fill the gap. That's the small cap. Let's take a look at GC on the daily as well. This is the weekly. If you notice, it's a rounded bottom. It looks like a cup, and if this is forming a handle on the daily chart, I would like gold to continue higher because this will set the tone in the overall market. If we zoom in from here to the right side of it, if you notice, this is a rounded bottom. It had a, hammer, but the body, finished to the upside. It fell down and came back up. If this is going to continuation, keep an eye on it to fill that gap and continue higher. That's gold. Let's take a look at CL. That's oil. Since the two crises that happened in the Middle East, this was the first one. This is the second one. Getting attacked between Iran and Iraq when they hit those missiles, and this was they hitting the oil well in the Saudis. This was the reaction of it: push up, fall down. Then we grinded back up in these two channels. I had a minor one here. We went above it because of that crisis, and we fell back to the backside of this channel. On the daily chart, we haven't been able to take 59, 30, 60 area. As long as we can clear that 50 SMA, our first target would be the 38.2 fib, the 50, and the 61.8. If we fall through this channel, you got the 200 and 116, which is this major consolidation in this area. If you put a volume profile, this area is very concentrated. That would act as either support. If it doesn't, it falls through. You have all the way back to the 50 range before you can get anything. But I'd like to see oil back up here. I myself, I trade what I see, not what I think, and I'm always, very technical trading. That's what I'd like everybody to do. Let's take a look at the Apple. Apple on the daily chart or the weekly, we just use the weeklies for most of those instruments. And I'll show you the IBM eventually. I mean, on the weekly, you can see that very steep up move in Apple. It never retested those gaps here, and we are still continuing higher. If we end up, losing this area here, that 310 area, 309 area, there's nothing to support it till basically the consolidation of this area in the 280, 275. But remember, trade what we see, not what we think. That's Apple. Let's take a look at Amazon. Amazon seems to be, on after the Christmas holiday and everything, and the New Year, it grinded higher and hasn't been able to clear the 1893, 1900. 1910 is going to be very mental. If it's going to be great, it's going to continue to the upside. That would be the middle of these two channels on the weekly to the upside. Keep an eye on it. If it doesn't, look for the backside of this channel and getting support here. If not, which would be the 38.2 Feb. Let's take a look at Baidu. Oops, Baidu. Baidu, it's doing around it. It's consolidating, hasn't been able to take the prior drop, from the 155 area, 154. Keep an eye on it. If it's going to come back through it, it'll come back to the 200 and 116 SMA. If not, it'll come back to the backside of this channel in the 117. Baba. Baba had a new high. It's got a doji. You can see it. A lot of the tech companies, and the servicing companies such as Amazon, and Baba is one of those, companies in Asia as well. You can see that steep line in it. So let's see what it does as well. Let's take a look at Facebook. Facebook had an annual high after all the problems it had. It eventually broke to a new high. Let's take a look at Google. Google has a new high. It's in this up channel on the weekly. It's got this wedge up here. Keep an eye on that wedge. It doesn't fall through, or the backside of this one, it comes back in. If it's continued, it'll go up to the upside of the other channel. And you got the 18 SMA. You can see how far it is from that 1310 area. Let's take a look at Goldman Sachs, GS. Goldman Sachs, on the weekly, you see how it came back from that 210 area. It had a lot of problems there, and eventually the 220, and eventually we broke that consolidation and we cleared this one. If the banking and everything is doing well in the brokerage world, in order for this to continue, it has to come up and fill that prior high. If it doesn't it doesn't get above that 250 area and comes back below the 248, be careful of it. It can come back to the backside of this channel in the 18 SMA. Let's take a look at IBM. That's going to be reporting on Tuesday. And if you notice on the weekly chart, I have it, since the prior earning, it had a drop, came back up, and it's getting a rounded bottom, but it's still inside this symmetrical triangle. If this is going to clear, it'll come back out through this channel to up here. If it falls, it comes back to down this side here. That's IBM. Let's take a look at an NFLX. Similar situation. It reports Tuesday. It's in this up channel. Netflix. Watching Netflix for one reason on the daily chart. See what the earning report will be. If it looks very good and everything is well after the report, that gap can be up here, or it can fall back down to this area here. So you have to make sure. I try not to play any more earnings. I wait for the setup and I wait for the report, and after the report I usually play either the options or the equities in the direction of those moves. That's Netflix. Let's take a look at Tesla. Tesla, if you notice on the daily chart, it's kind of, I'll show the weekly first before we go to the daily. Let's go weekly. Weekly, you can see an inverted, hammer or a hanging man, upside down. So if this is going to continue, it came back to retest the prior breakout, and it's holding that 5010 area, 509. That's going to be very critical if it's going to continue to the 550 area, 545, and then 560. I'll show you on the daily how it looks like. If it's going to baseline in this area, doesn't fall back to this side of here through this channel where it broke out of here, because it can come do this or go side action and continue higher. That would be great on Tesla, because that's the widow maker. Remember, last year we called the fall down of Tesla to the 225, and we U-turned and went higher on Tesla. Let's take a look at Visa. It's at an annual new high, and we'll go back to the weekly. I'm just trying to go through stuff so that way you guys can, set your year, with your goals and everything. The Visa's at the high. You can see it's trying to break through that up channel. If you draw one from here, it's still got a little bit more to go. Let's look at MasterCard. People, spending, and you can do the same thing here from here to here, continue higher. It's got a little bit more room. And if it does fall, remember those 18 SMAs. Let's take a look at Twin Resort. It's in the casino business. Wynn Resort, it's going to be reporting soon. I'm not sure what is that question. Earning is on the 30th, so it's got about a week. If this is going to, got a green box here, that means the advanced decline line ADX crossed the DMI negative in the direction of the DMI plus continuation to the upside. It's got, another week or so. If it's going to, break this level where it fell from, this is test 1, test 2, test 3. If this is going to continue, target is up here before the earning report. If not, it comes back to the backside of this channel. That's a good play. I mean, I'd like, how to look at it from here to here, here. If it's going to break out, look for a move up. If it falls back down, look for the backside here. And let's take a look at XOM. Oops, ExxonMobil. And ExxonMobil, if you notice, has been in a down channel for the last year and a half. It hasn't been able to recuperate from, the December rally. We took off, went to the 82 in June, July. Then we fell down. We went back halfway. Then we fell down 100% of the move. We went back to thirds of the move. We fell down. And if you notice, Exxon's having a little bit of a problem. I mean, on the weekly, it looks tempting to buy, the $60 range. It does pay at 75 cents to $1 to 55 cents, as a dividend. Is it a good company? Of course it is, but where oil is heading, I would look at the transportation to keep an eye, where, goods are always transported. You can look at the DJT, that's the transportation. And if you noticed, we've been since, the holidays and everything, we've got around it. We're in an up channel. We still have a little bit room to come back to the prior 3 highs. if importing, exporting, good of goods and stuff and the shipping and everything is not, you know, it's going to have an effect, after the earning report. I would keep an eye on the transportation. And another instrument, if you guys don't use an ETF, it's XLF, I believe. That's the financial sector. If you notice, the financials are up there. XLT, that's the treasury, oops, XLT um, index. That's the 20-year bonds. You can look at it too to see the direction. Am I losing internet? Wow. Hmm. Looks like Toss froze on us or we lost the internet, but it looks like I'm still connected. I don't know if TD Ameritrade are doing some updates. If it is, let's just, wrap it up. Let me try to see if I can get the ES back up. Okay, the ES is back up, huh? Okay, then we'll look at the BA and K. That would show me a little bit better idea. And if you notice the banking sector, because the small cap represent 26% of the banking industries in the United States. If you notice, we are in an uptrend. It reset a little bit. I would keep an eye on this breakout where we broke out of. If we cannot continue, you can see that sharper channel up here. I mean, I should draw one more from here to keep an eye on it. Let's connect it. We'll get a channel. And this would be a good way to keep an eye on the overall sector and the sentiment in the market. Usually the small cap is the canary in the coal mine. And that would be my line in the sand. If we fall through it, we'll come back, to the 18 on the weekly, then the 50 SMA, and that would be a tell. If we're going to continue, it has to come back where we fell from when we had that little hump and this candle took us down. We're trying to retest this area, but haven't been able to take these three candles that took us lower yet. So let's go back to ES and finish it up. Okay, ES, I'll just wrap it up one more time. And what I'd like you to guys to do, use like a 20-day and hourly chart or a 30-minute chart that will give you an idea where those gaps are in the overnight. At the same time, where there is continuation or not. Remember, we had the Iran, this was the dump. It doesn't show the overnight here, and I had called the 32, 18, 19. If we stay above it in 12, we can continue higher. If I go into here, style, and I put the overnight action in here in the setting, I go futures, and I go show extended hours and apply. This will show you this major drop. It looks like it filled the gap, but this happened in the overnight action. This is still a virgin gap, and this is another virgin gap as well in the Fortune 500. I hope you enjoyed this video. Look us up at Solstice ATR and Vulcan Capital Research. We're here to help you, and we have a Discord chat room. Anytime you can check us out and ask for us for helping you in setting up a goal for 2020. Try not to do it by yourself. Have somebody been mentoring you, helping you to understand technicality, understand trends, understand education, how to read candles, and in which direction we're heading, so that way you can get a better feel how to do stuff. And take care.